Assaulting the narrative. Destroying their lives. Unearthing the truth. I want the truth! This is The Truth with John Gordon.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Gordon, substituting for traveling John Fredericks today. Welcome to the show. It is my pleasure to substitute for the Godzilla of truth and the blowtorch of free speech. Thank you, John Fredericks, for sharing this microphone with me today. And we are going to begin with the pardon of Hunter Biden, which will never happen. That's what Joe Biden told us. No one is above the law. We're going to put our faith and trust in the judiciary. Lies, lies, and more lies. You don't remember? Let me jog your memory.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
We sit here in Normandy. Your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I'd abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
So what do you think? What do you think about Joe Biden pardoning his son, Hunter? Well, personally, I'm not so keen on it, but I'm not surprised. This president came into office on a lie. He lied and said he got 80 million votes. Never happened. He lied and said that the process worked, that he was the winner of a free and fair election. It was a lie, and he leaves office the way he came into office, with another series of lies. Now, of course, the talking heads of the mainstream media are spinning this to say, oh, this is just a dad looking after his son. Oh, the little boy made some mistakes and daddy gonna come and pardon him and rescue him. I'm sorry, that does not work for me, because the little boy is 50 years old. He did these things knowingly and willingly. The problem here is that the father never taught the son ethics, morality, accountability. There were no consequences in the Biden household for son Hunter stepping out of line, and it is played out time after time after time after time. Again, this is just another classic case of daddy coming to the rescue. But I think it's deeper than that. I have said repeatedly, if you listen to The Truth on Saturdays, you can come right back here to Saturday at noon for The Truth with John Gordon. And if you're one of our listeners, you know that I have said repeatedly that I got a problem with Hunter Biden, but I've got a bigger problem with Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden is the father that carries responsibility. And what did Joe Biden do? He led his son astray. Oh, John, what are you talking about? How can you say these things? Very simply, Joe Biden made his son, Hunter Biden, the bag man for the O'Biden crime family. $40 to $60 million in illegal, illicit payments from our adversaries. These were not even our allies that they took money from. It was from the mayor of Moscow, $3 million. Cha-ching. $3 million from a corporation in China with ties to the CCP. A Porsche, diamonds, and cash from a Russian oligarch. 80,000 a year. Or no, a month. I'm sorry. 80,000 a month as a director of Burisma in the Ukraine, for which Hunter had no qualifications other than being the son of the unduly elected president of the United States. I don't understand. I'm not going to dance around this stuff. You want to hear a song and a dance? Go to the mainstream media. You're not going to get it here. I'm just going to tell you like I see it and like I believe it, based on the evidence that I have personally seen. Georgia was stolen in 2020. These people came in on a fake, phony, false, rigged election. And they lied to you then, and they continue to lie to you now. He said, I will not pardon my son, Hunter. Is this a father looking after his son, or is it a father looking after his own hide? He just neutralized the prosecutors. That's what he did. That's right. By pardoning Hunter, he silenced the chief witness against him. Now, you have to remember, this is the guy who brought lawfare against Donald Trump, who made his life for the last 4 years a hell, the most unfair, unbelievable abuse of power we've ever seen from the White House, in bringing the Department of Justice to bear on his political rival. But this was nothing new. Biden went to the Ukraine. They were investigating a Ukrainian official for inappropriate illegal acts, principally payments to Biden, I think. And Biden went there and said, hey, you want the $3 billion that we're holding for you? Fire this guy. Fire the investigator that is looking into abuses of power in the Ukraine, focused on payments being made to Biden. And son of a bee, these are Biden's own words. The investigator was fired, the $3 billion were released, and money continues to flow to the Ukraine by the tens and hundreds of billions. And you wonder where it's going? Do we really have any doubt in our mind where the monies are going? I think the swamp is as corrupt and as dirty as it gets. And Biden pardoned Hunter because he doesn't want prosecutors to come in and say, hey, give us the old man and we'll let you go. That's how I think it's going down. And I don't think they're done yet. I don't think they're done yet. Oh, Jean-Pierre, how much longer do we have to put up with her?
I don't have that information for you. I would just refer you to his office. All right, I'm going to
You haven't called on me in 2 seasons, Kareem.
and not calling on you today. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
You should be ashamed
Go
of
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
That shows
Go ahead.
disrespect to a free and
Go
independent
ahead.
media. It's a blacklist
I'm gonna
one of our
close-
country's
I'm gonna-
largest and most widely read newspapers, Kareem. That shows contempt for a free and independent press.
Go ahead. I'm calling on somebody who I haven't called in a long time as well. Go ahead.
Just lies. That's what the administration was built on. And they can't leave fast enough for me. I really, forgive and forgive, no. Forget, no. We need accountability. We need the rule of law to apply to these people now. And that's why they're all in a panic. They are all running for cover. Retaliation? No. Accountability? Absolutely. Why? So it will never happen again. These were this was the longest, worst 4 years in our nation's history, and it can't end fast enough for me. And I'm thinking for you too, and maybe even Anthony, who's on the line. Good morning, Anthony, and welcome to the show.
I just wanted to say, in my younger years, I was on the wrong end of the law and everything. So, I've spent time in jail and lockup, stuff like that. And then you have Hunter Biden running around looking like a Grand Theft Auto character, snorting coke in the White House, impregnating strippers, running around with firearms. And, we have 70-year-old women who were locked up and put in prison for praying on the Capitol lawn. I mean, this is just, it's crazy to me, man. And then he gets pardoned. Like, if that was me, I would have been thrown under the prison cell and the key would have been thrown away into the river or something somewhere. I just, for anybody out there that has had a run-in with the law, this has got to be a smack in the face for anybody. You know what I mean? So that's all I wanted to say. It's just, this is just a smack in the face to any American.
Well, I think it's consistent with the way they've operated for the last 4 years, the two-tiered system of justice. Let's turn the DOJ against anybody Trump. They've absolutely ruined America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. It is the saddest thing I have ever witnessed. They have stripped him of his reputation. They've stripped him of his law license. They've stripped him of his money. They even confiscated his father or grandfather's pocket watch, which was a family heirloom, and made him turn it in to the government. And
that's
the money,
ridiculous.
yeah, and the money's going to go to Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman for a $140 million judgment for defamation that they won in the D.C. courts, which is 95% Democratic. There was no justice.
You know, Giuliani cleaned up New York like we've never seen before. You know, to see, I don't quite understand what goes through the minds of New Yorkers. And, you know, I'm sure there's, you know, some good people out there and everything, but just to vote these people in constantly for years on out, I don't get it, man. What are they thinking? And then they come down here to Virginia and they try to escape what they've created, and then they try to do the same thing here. They vote the same way here. Like, you know, if you don't want it, why are you voting for it at a different place that you enjoy, that you moved to? So, I mean, it's crazy to me, man. But I'm going to hang out and listen to you. Thank you for filling in, man.
Well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. But finishing up on Joe O. Biden and his reign of terror, which are coming to a rapid end of, and just I hope he doesn't get us into a nuclear war in the remaining 45 or 50 days that he's got in office, but he's allowing Zelensky to fire long-range missiles, not into the border of Russia, but into the heart of Russia. And so what does Putin do? He fires back an ICBM. An ICBM is an intercontinental ballistic missile, which is capable of delivering a nuclear warhead. And I'm sorry, you don't mess with Putin. And Biden and the Biden White House and the people that are running the Department of Defense are just playing with fire. And they need to just stand down. Just stand down. The American people have spoken. We don't want your tyranny any longer. You need to exit stage left. Take your pardons and go stick them up your butt and leave now. Just stand down. We don't need any more of your lies. We don't need any more of your miscarriages of justice. And I predict, ladies and gentlemen, that we're not done yet. I think that Joe O. Biden, on his way out, will issue more pardons. I believe that he will pardon Jim Biden. That would be his brother, a prominent recipient of ill-begotten gains from our adversaries. I think that he will pardon. Are you ready? You waiting for this one? You heard it here first, folks. Mark my word, he will pardon none other than Anthony Fauci. Because Anthony Fauci should be sitting at Rikers right now in jail for lying to the American people, for costing our country millions of lives, for telling us that we had to wear masks, that we had to social distance, and we had to take an untested vaccine. And it cost millions of lives. And will he pardon the governor of New York? I don't know. But Cuomo put sick people in nursing homes. I mean, it was the lowest, worst period of our nation's history, at least in the modern era. And people need to be held accountable. Fauci needs to lose his government-paid chauffeur. He needs to lose his government-funded pension, and he needs to be sitting in jail. That's where I think he needs to be. Tim from Orlando, you're on the line. What do you think this morning, Tim?
Hey, good morning, John. This is Tim from Orlando, and I agree with everything that you're saying. And the key word here is blanket pardons. Blanket pardons. He gave Hunter a 10-year blanket pardon, meaning the whole span of 10 years. I mean, what did Hunter do in 10 years?
Well, they know and we don't know.
Going to be, exactly. And the same thing's going to be for, as he's wielding out these blanket pardons for January 6th committee members, Como, he's also, as fast as we're talking about this being distracted by the blanket pardons, they're fast-tracking illegals to get them to make them legal citizens of the United States so they can't be thrown out. he's putting together a new contract for federal employee workforce so they can work from home until 2029. The blue state governors are already aligning themselves to break laws so Trump can't force them to do anything like get the illegals out of the blue states. I mean, the blanket pardons is a distraction, but there's so much more going on between now and January 20th.
Why are they doing these things? Why are they keeping thugs, rapists, murderers in our border and rationalizing it? They don't even tell you why.
Lost.
They don't even, I say rationalize, they don't give you a reason at all. They just say, we're such a compassionate country. We want to allow these visitors to stay, or else they'll have to go back to a horrible third world country.
They lost. They lost the election, and now they're upset. And it was great. John Fredericks put out vote early. Get out your vote, bank your vote, and then get out your neighbors who don't vote very often and get them to the polls. And that was a great plan because it overwhelmed their strategy that they used in 2020 and 2022. But they had a new strategy. We voted early, they voted late. Take California. They put together, the Democrats put together a foreign election ballot process to get ballots in from overseas citizens or people that claim to be citizens, and they've been counting those overseas ballots ever since the election has been over. It's been over a month. Guess what? California is still counting ballots. How is that possible? How is that possible?
Well, it's possible because they don't care about honesty and integrity. And they have just utterly lied to us for 4 years. Brad Raffensperger in Georgia, I wonder if Biden will pardon him. Raffensperger should be in an orange jumpsuit right now. He said it was the safest, most honest election ever. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stop, okay? Oh, we've got to look forward. We can't litigate the past. We accomplished nothing by looking back to 2020 except exposing the deeds and holding the people accountable that did it, because Raffensperger delusionally thinks that he's going to be governor of Georgia.
My mom used to tell me, if you mess around enough, you see what happens. And boy, they are really stirring the pot. And I think everybody's been very compassionate. They've been they've held their tongue during the holidays. You know, we didn't really rub it in anybody's face about the victory, but it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be, John.
Well, I honestly believe that Trump saved America, that the voters came to the polls, they got up off the couch, and they saved America. And I give a lot of credit to Elon Musk, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. I give a lot of credit to the Amish. You know, we've got stations in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and every Saturday I begged the Christians, the evangelicals, people that should vote and didn't. Do you know that there are 90 million Christians in America and 40 million traditionally voted? Not true a month ago. Boy, you guys came out. There are 200,000 Amish in Pennsylvania. Traditionally, 3,000 voted. 90,000 voted on November the 5th, 2024. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for doing your civic duty. Thank you for going to the polls. And they came to the polls in their horse-drawn carriages with Trump and American flags waving. That's America. That's the America I want to live in. Thank you for helping save America. And we will be back. There's a lot more to come. Stay with us. I want you to know how grateful I am to each one of our listeners and viewers of our live stream. We really don't take this airtime for granted. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to come to you each week with our insights into the news of the day. As I'm fond of saying, we watch the news so you don't have to. We also would like to encourage our radio listeners to go to rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com, search for John Gordon Truth, and subscribe to our channel. That little act of kindness on your part would go so far because it would help us expand our reach. And for a limited time only, if you will subscribe to our channel and then email me at johngordontruth@gmail.com, we will put you in a raffle for this once-in-a-lifetime Trump hat signed by none other than Rudy Giuliani.
Wow.
And that's the truth. And thank you for your consideration. Good morning, and we are back. I'm John Gordon, substituting for John Fredericks, who's on a plane to Israel right now, attending a conference there. I'm sure we'll be hearing from him very soon. And I would want to go to Israel. They're at war. I mean, I admire John and his courage for going into the hotbed of the world right now. But is it any worse than in New York City? I mean, I've spent a lot of time in New York City. I visited the location of all the illegals at New York's luxury hotel right across the street from Grand Central Station a little over a year ago. I interviewed immigrants there. I interviewed store owners surrounding that hotel. And and then I walked back to my hotel about 7 or 8 blocks. And as I was walking back, I encountered so many homeless people. And a good third of them were veterans living without shelter, living without clothing, food, or the bare necessities of life. Yet we were housing, and continue to, at the Roosevelt Hotel, illegal immigrants into our country. How can they do it? I mean, do they not have a conscience? When they wake up and look at themselves in the mirror, how can they live with themselves knowing that they're using taxpayer money to conduct governmental actions that nobody wants, that really are an affront to the laws of our nation and a violation of the oath that they have taken to protect the Constitution of the United States? I just don't see how they can live with themselves. And the consequence is that people who have served our military and put their lives on the line to protect our freedoms are living homeless on the streets of New York, proximate to the Roosevelt Hotel, where illegals are living with free food, free shelter, free scooters, and spending money and cell phones to ride around and cruise the streets of New York. It is just so wrong. And it was done because Obama wants to change the fabric of America. Well, to hell with you, Obama. You need to be in jail. There's something like 600 million missing during his administration from the Defense Department that disappeared in Africa. I don't have facts. I don't have intimate knowledge of where that money went. But the innuendo, the gossip is certainly out there. Is it in a Swiss bank account somewhere? In a foreign bank account somewhere? I don't know. And it's probably not right for me to even go there because I lack facts. But what I do know is that these people have worked to destroy our country as we know it. And the American people have spoken. They've spoken loudly. 76 million people voted for Donald Trump. We want change. And we want it right now on the streets of New York, where just yesterday, the CEO of United Healthcare was assassinated outside the New York Hilton Hotel, where I've stayed before. Here's a clip.
The man pulling out a gun equipped with a silencer just after 6:45 yesterday morning. Meantime, police are releasing these images of the man, showing him at a Starbucks in Midtown wearing all black and carrying that distinctive backpack we've talked about.
This is a shocking video. That this assassin gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare on the streets of New York, killing him in cold blood, shooting him from behind, which is the only silver lining I can find. Thank God that he didn't have to watch the bullet careening toward him. I mean, this is third world country stuff. This doesn't happen in America. But here it happened at 7 o'clock in the morning on the streets of New York. The belief is, and there, his wife was interviewed, and she said that they had received threats. He knew he had the goods on somebody, and I believe that the feds were talking to him. We will learn what this is about in time. But it is shocking and it's chilling, and it's not supposed to happen in our country. It was a planned attack conducted on the streets. And you can see the assassin's eyes. They've got him on security cameras. Somebody knows who this is. Get on the phone and call the FBI and tell them if you recognize him or you know who he is. This lawlessness cannot happen in America. So Pete Hegseth, the knives are out. The deep state is coming after him. And the mainstream media, the paid mouthpieces for our government, I don't know who in the government does all this stuff. It's the deep state. We know that that's Comey. We know it's Brennan. We know it's Obama. We know it's Clinton's. And they are waging war against the American people because Donald Trump, as I said, got 76 million votes. He should be able to pick his cabinet. Oh, no, not Pete Hegseth. No, he has a drinking problem, and he raped a girl in a hotel in California a number of years ago, and he's behaved inappropriately around women. They don't tell you that he's 44 years old, has a net worth of $6 million, stands 6 feet tall, has a beautiful wife, Jennifer, 2 children, and attended Harvard, Princeton, Forest Lake Area High School, and served his country after exiting college, when he could have just waltzed his way onto Wall Street and made tens of millions of dollars. But what did Pete Hegseth do instead? He volunteered for the military, and he volunteered to serve in Iraq twice in combat, and he volunteered to serve his country in the military in Afghanistan. And then he came back, a decorated war hero, and went to work for Fox News, where he worked on the weekends, and I enjoyed watching him. He has a spirit about him that is infectious. He's an honorable person, I believe. And these anonymous sources. I mean, whatever happened with the notion of being able to confront your accusers? Why are they always with anonymous sources? I think that anonymous sources should be immediately, automatically discounted. But Pete Hegseth is being Kavanaugh'd right in front of us. And it looked like 24 hours ago that there may be a substitution and that DeSantis might be asked to step in as Secretary of Defense. But then Hegseth met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump said, "I've been where you are. We're not going to back down. We're not going to cower. I've got your back. Go out and fight. We're not going to let the swamp steamroll over us anymore. We're not going to allow them to discredit a decorated veteran of our military who wants to go rid the Department of Defense of DEI, of all of the wokeness that infects that institution. No, we're not going to do it. We're not going to cower to them anymore." Sarah from Fredericksburg, Virginia is on the line. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
On the notion of it not happening in New York City with the man who was shot, now you got to remember, John Lennon, same type of thing. It was a targeted assassination.
Yeah, there's no question. John Lennon was gunned down at the Dakota, walking distance from the New York Hilton. I think there were two very different things. I think in John Lennon's case, you had a deranged fan, right? Who I don't know how his mind worked or why he wanted to kill John Lennon, one of the greatest musicians to ever walk the earth. But in this case, the CEO of United Healthcare, it was obviously a hit. It was an assassination. And the belief is that the CEO of United Healthcare had information about insider trading and that he was going to rat out someone, and so they eliminated him. That was
the first time today that I heard that, so that's good to know.
Well, that's the supposition. That's the belief. His wife was interviewed immediately after her husband died, and she cut the interview short, saying that she had to go console her children. Can you imagine being in her shoes? Can you imagine being in her children's shoes? It's painful to me. It's really painful when you stop and think about the demonic nature of this. But they've got the guy on camera. They've got a picture of him in his hoodie and his mask, but his eyes are very apparent. And we can see his build. We can see his stature. He was a white guy. So, how many white guys are there in a black hoodie roaming the streets of New York? And he's going to be, they've already got him on multitudes of security cameras. They had him on a camera in Starbucks. They're going to catch up with this guy, I think, in reasonably short order.
But there's plenty of people who are willing to be paid for that sort of thing in Antifa and, the FBI. That's supposition also.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for calling. And I appreciate the call, and I wish you a joyous and happy holiday season, and that you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's with you and your family.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. Jeff is on the line. He's calling us from Middletown, Ohio. Jeff, where is Middletown?
Just between Cincinnati and Dayton, and it's the hometown of our vice president-to-be, J.D. Vance.
Exactly. And I am a Buckeye. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and I grew up until the age of 5 in Mount Gilead, Ohio. When we left in 1959, there were 5,000 people there. Today, there are 5,000 people there, and I go back about twice a year because I have relatives there. I also have some property there on 71, which is the main artery between Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. I love Ohio. I love the Buckeye State, and I've got some people that work for me on that property, and they told me that this morning it is a very uncomfortable and chilly 17 degrees, I believe, with a foot of snow on the ground.
Well, I'm Middletown, Ohio right now. We're at 17 degrees with no snow, thank goodness. But, we the snow it missed us, but we got the cold. But Middletown's a great little town. It's, Armco Steel is right here in Middletown. It's now Cliffs. It's been sold 2 or 3 times, but my dad, grandpa, all kinds of relatives have made a great living, a great life, through the steel industry. And, it's still kicking. And like I said, J.D. Vance is from Middletown. He actually went to Preble, Shawnee, a few miles from where I live. I live out in West Middletown. But J.D. as a kid went to Preble, Shawnee, but then he ended up going to Middletown. But, I want to comment on, I hope Pete doesn't step down, and I hope Trump truly stands behind him, because I don't trust the Republican senators as much as I can look at them, and that goes for about most of them. They like to say a lot, text a lot, but do nothing. And I'm one of them guys. Trump, when the first term, promised a lot of things, and he did exactly what he said, and that's why I support President Trump. I back President Trump, and I call myself MAGA Jeff, and proudly say that because the Republican Party left me, and the MAGA movement is real, And I hope Pete does not step down. Make these senators vote. I want them to vote. John Cornyn's up for re-election. Collins is up for we got quite a few up for re-election in 2 years. And I'm already hearing about primary challenges for John Cornyn with Ken Paxton. I hope that's true and real. And I'll donate to Ken Paxton if he does that. But we have to, if they're going to keep doing what they did to Matt Gaetz, if Pete drops out, who's next? They're going to go after the next Tulsi.
Well, probably Kash Patel would be my guess, because I've said for a year that Trump is not a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to bureaucracy. And that's what we're seeing with all of these nominees, Hegseth, Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They are people who have been victimized by the very agencies that they're now called to lead. And I can't wait. It's a new day in America. It is a great day in America. It is a wonderful day to be alive in America. And thank you, Jeff from Middletown, Ohio, for calling us this morning. We'll be back right after this break. Stay with us. We've got a lot more to cover.
The Truth with John Gordon.
I woke up on top of the world this morning.
We break down today's political landscape and feature interviews with key guests.
It doesn't matter if they call you a or a
to uncover the real story behind current events in the United States.
Of course, saw a rifle pointing through a fence with a chain link. Okay, so
you're a good man. I just want to give you a compliment because you have courage to stay with the truth.
I hate injustice.
This is great fun. I like you and your ideas, so let's do some more of this.
This is John Gordon. I host The Truth with John Gordon every Saturday here on the John Fredericks Media Network at 12 o'clock noon. It's replayed at 1 p.m. on Sundays. You can also watch us on our live stream on youtube.com. We're a little over 500 subscribers now on that channel. I think about 510. We've got to get to 1,000. So if you listen to The Truth and you like us, if you could go to youtube.com, getter.com, rumble.com, we're on all of those live streams, and just subscribe to us. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes you less time than I've spent talking about it here in the last few seconds. It would do a great deal of help to us, and it'll push us out to more listeners. It'll broaden our reach, and that allows us to get bigger and better guests. So we want to continue to bring you great programming, just like we're bringing you this morning, I hope. Give us a call. We'd love to put you on the air with us. We've been talking about the art of the smear. Yes, the deep state is back. The knives are out. They're going after Pete Hegseth because he wants to change the Department of Defense, in my opinion, for the better. Now, we can maintain the deep state in control, which is exactly what you've got with Lloyd Austin, the current Secretary of Defense. So we have a real choice. Do we want the status quo with Lloyd Austin, who was MIA for 3 days? Do you know that if you're in the military and you're missing in action, that subjects you to court-martial? Why is Lloyd Austin allowed a free pass? You know, Lloyd Austin, the guy who got us out of Afghanistan, and in the process cost us 13 men and women who were members of our military. Don't forget the $85 billion in the most sophisticated armaments known to man, that, again, they lied to us, blatantly, flagrantly lied to us and said, oh, we dismantled them. We rendered them useless. And then the next day we saw Black Hawk helicopters flying over the capital of Afghanistan with corpses hanging from our helicopters. What in the world, folks? What in the world did this Biden reign of terror, what was it about? And he just left Bagram Air Force Base, abandoned it. One of, if not the most strategic United States military bases in the world in between Russia, China, inside Afghanistan, just walked away from it. Incompetence at best, corrupt at worst. You're going to put a gun to my head and make me pick one? I'm going to pick corrupt. I think it was an intentional act. I don't know who he was favoring, but we know that he took money from our enemies. And now we see our Air Force Base fall into the hands of the Taliban and ISIS and Afghanistan, and our armaments fall into the hands of ISIS. We see a Chinese spy balloon that the Defense Department had to know was coming towards us. They tracked it all the way across the Pacific, watched it enter into Canada, and then fall down into the United States, entering over Montana, hovering over our most sensitive nuclear military bases, where China has bought up farmland around these military bases. That's one of the things that Trump has got to tackle. Divest China of farmland around our military bases. It's the first thing that he needs to do. And close the Chinese police stations, for God's sakes, that are operating in New York, Houston, and LA. My God, what have these people done to our country? And how many Chinese fit military-age men have crossed our southern border? Estimates range into the thousands, over 10,000. We don't know how many. We have to round them up and send them home. The enemy has infiltrated our country. Round them up and send them home. There are some really bad forces at work in our country today. It's right in front of us. They're not making a secret of it. Mass deportations? Hell yes. Mass deportations. Get the enemy out of our country. It can't happen in China. It can't happen in Russia. It can't happen in Central America, yet it has happened in America on our southern border and our northern border. And Trump hasn't even taken office yet, and he has gone straight to work. And he is having an impact. Canada, Mexico, listen up. If you don't stop the influx of illegal aliens into our country and the influx of fentanyl across your border into our country, we are going to tariff you into economic oblivion. And what happens? The new president of Mexico calls up President Trump and says, of course, we're going to stop the inflow of fentanyl into the United States. We're going to do our part to stop illegal immigration out of our country into your country. Of course, we were always going to do that. Not that they have, not for the last 4 years, but they are going to cooperate because they don't want to be tariffed. And Trudeau makes a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago. And he says, of course, we're going to cooperate with you, Mr. President. Just please don't tariff us into economic oblivion. I think we've got Monty calling in from North Dakota. Good morning, Monty. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, John. I like to listen to you on JFR app whenever I can, and I just followed you on the Rumble app.
Thank you very much, Monty.
And, you know, you're a little bit older than me. Maybe you can remember.
I'm a little bit older than everybody these days, but that's the subject for another day.
Maybe you can remember. You know, we used to have classes in high school like Americanism versus communism, and when I see all that's going on, you know, people like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, all these people, they're traitors. They've been doing insider trading for years. Obama, his $1 billion cash to Iran, that's treason. Biden's $86 billion withdrawal from Afghanistan, that is treason. We need people in here who are going to fight. And the problem with the Republicans is they refuse to fight. I'm a Democrat because Republicans refuse to fight. I'm surrounded by all these communists like AOC. Okay, that's fine. I know they're communists, but if you're a Republican, you don't know who's going to stab you in the back. And if we look at what has happened to President Trump with Mitch McConnell, Thune, and the rest, they are traitorous scumbags, the lowest of the low, right? We can fight the communists if we name them. We can fight the Democrats who are actually communists. RFK, I would rather have him, Tulsi Gabbard, Dr. Naomi Wolf, Dr. Peter McCullough. These are all people who are Democrats, and I would trust way before I would trust any of these senators who call themselves Republicans. I would trust Rand Paul, but we've got to do something. We've got to get serious, or these people are going to sandbag every one of Trump's cabinets. They're just going to keep going at it, and he's going to have a failed second term, just like I consider his first term a failed presidency, even though I voted for him twice, and I'll vote him for 5 or 6 more times if he keeps running.
Well, look, his first term in office was messy. There's no question about it. He had to fire James Comey as head of the FBI. That cost him a lot of political capital in the swamp, but it was necessary. He did the right thing, but it was messy. And then he had to fire the Secretary of State, who was actually very well liked and well respected. But, you know, you had 2 titans of industry that weren't accustomed to taking orders from anybody. And so the Secretary of State didn't think that he had to listen to the President of the United States, and he didn't like having to take orders. So Trump summarily dismissed him. And he didn't do it very charitably, I didn't think. So it was just messy. It was the right thing to do, but it was messy. All right, so this time around, Donald Trump knows the game now. He didn't know the game then. And he is putting people in his cabinet who are change agents. And they're not 1 or 2 here or there. They are all change agents, and they are all now forming an army of change agents. So, Monty, I understand where you're coming from. You make perfect sense on one level, but let's stay the course. Be optimistic. This country needs you. This country needs all of the people who have your mindset. Trump cannot do it alone. Trump and his cabinet cannot do it alone. Trump got elected because of the American people rising up in effectively a MAGA revolution. That's what this country needs. That's what it's going to take to affect the change that you want and the change that I want. And Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to do their part through DOGE, the Government Office of Government Efficiency, which is code name for drain the frickin' swamp. We've got a 4-year window that we can do a lot of good, but we all got to get in the boat. We all got to row in the same direction, and we've all got to support this initiative. Now, I worry like you do. You know, the Senate has just engaged in a shill game. They put Thune under one of the shills and McConnell under the other, and they've just mixed them around. McConnell has gone nowhere. He is still there, and he and Thune are joined at the hip. There is no difference in John Thune and Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell has now been made chairman of the committee that determines what legislation is going to come out of committee. It's the Rules Committee of the Senate. McConnell hadn't left. They've just given him a new title, and he's still going to be a nemesis and a thorn in all of our sides as reforms are ushered through. So you're right, Monty, to have a healthy dose of skepticism. I would just encourage you to stay the course and don't give up the ship.
John, I'm not giving up the ship, but here's the problem. when we say stay the course right now is Gates has been sunk. His nomination has been sunk, and that was the first one out of the gate. I'm really hopeful about Kash Patel, if he gets in, that he's going to do some things like investigate where did Mitch McConnell and his family get all of their money from, because we know it goes straight back to the CCP, but nobody is holding these people accountable. The same insider trading with Nancy Pelosi and these other people. And, John, I'm just afraid that because of things that have happened, like the Gates getting sunk, that it's just going to be one after another. And I can't remember his name now. We're just talking about him, the new defense secretary. I am hoping
Pete Hegseth,
that President Trump will, yes, I'm hoping that Pete will get pushed through. I'm hoping that President Trump will back him to the hilt and will surround him with whatever he needs to get him through there. But the problem is, John, I was hoping the same thing for Gates. I was so hopeful about Gates, and he's the first one sunk.
All right, so there is a bit of a difference between Hegseth and Gates. I know Matt Gates. We're not on speed dial, but I was on the podium with President Trump in Commerce, Georgia, a couple of years ago, along with Matt Gates. We have had several encounters since then, and I have watched him intently in congressional hearings in the Judiciary Committee that he serves on in Congress. He is a fighter. He is a warrior. He has got courage, and the deep state unquestionably pulled the rug out from underneath him. But I've got to be truthful with you. I think that he asked for it to a degree. He was seen at parties, presumably taking drugs, presumably having sex with multiple women. Those are not anonymous sources. Those are real witnesses who've come forward. And it's not old, it's not new news, it's old news. I'm just amazed that Gates didn't know that was going to come back to haunt him. I'm a little bit surprised that Trump didn't know it, or if he did know it, allowed the nomination to go forward. There is a role for Matt Gates in this government, and I am hopeful that he will find a role. Maybe it's in DOJ, maybe it's in, which doesn't require any Senate confirmation or any congressional approval. It is an extra governmental agency. It's not an agency of government. It is a private enterprise designed to study government and to report back, and hopefully the findings will be acted upon. Of course, the executive branch is going to listen intently to everything that DOJ comes up with, and it will be the basis for legislation that comes forward to reform the bureaucracy, to get rid of the Department of Education. I hope. They say that they are. But why do we take money from the states so we can turn around and send it back to them? That makes no sense whatsoever. That is not supposed to be the role of the federal government, according to the Founding Fathers. All powers are delegated to or relegated to the states. Only those powers explicitly enumerated are for the federal government. The model has been turned upside down, and it has everything to do with money and power. It has nothing to do with the Constitution and the vision of our founding fathers. That's what DOJ has an opportunity to right side this model and put the federal government subjugated to the will of the people and put the states in control of how they want to govern for themselves. And if a state wants to legalize abortion, they can do it now, or they can make it illegal now. They're not going to be told what to do by the federal government or the Supreme Court, which ushered in an era of Roe v. Wade where 63 million fetuses were aborted. I refuse to have one drop of that blood on my conscience. I have consistently, continually, when the subject has come up, stood firmly against abortion. But I also believe in libertarian principles of government to an extent. So I'm not going to condone it. I'm so grateful of the fact that God gave me and my wife 3 wonderful sons who we worship and adore. I'll tell you one quick story. I was at the Republican National Convention this summer, and this subject came up, and I was talking about with a very delightful lady, and she was a delegate to the convention, and we stumbled on the subject of abortion. And I made the statement that I was not in favor of abortion, but I did recognize the traditional 3 exceptions that people talk about: incest, health of the mother, rape. And the way that she expressed herself was so eloquent and so respectful and so articulate that I was able to hear her. And she said, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I want to relay to you a conversation that I had with my mother. And she said that she really despised my father because he had raped her, and he wanted her to have an abortion, and she refused. And you are the baby. You are the child that was the product of a rape. And I have never regretted my decision not to honor your father's wish. That really changed me. That story, that chance encounter at the Republican National Convention with a delegate from the state of Georgia really got my attention. So we digress. My point is the states get to decide. The voters get to decide. Not some federal bureaucrat in Washington that is going to impose his will on us. That's the opportunity that we've got right now. Adrian's on the phone. She's calling and has been waiting patiently. She's calling from Richmond, Virginia this morning. Good morning, Adrian.
Well, I don't identify as a woman anymore, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much, John.
My apologies.
No worries, brother. It happens a lot more than you think, man. Hey, it's my middle name, but it's all good, brother. No worries. Hey, so the Matt Gaetz thing, you got to understand it as well. I get where you come from, being a moral person with your wife, 3 kids, but sometimes folks are young, they're handsome, they're attractive, and they're able to seek, opportunities, fun, whatever you want to call it, and do some things probably that they're not thinking that's going to hit them. No one knows what they're actually going to do in life. So, I get it. I see it from your perspective, but I see it from also his perspective that, hey, man, he was just out there doing his thing. If he wasn't breaking the law, then we need to get over it. That's the big deal. That people want to judge this man because he did something as if no one has skeletons in the closet, but I digress on that. What I called you about is...
Before you move on from that, I want to tell you that there is a big part of me. I am no goody two-shoes, okay? I had a great college experience.
It's irrelevant.
It is basically irrelevant. The only thing that I will say in response to that is that I don't think he exercised any judgment at all, and he put himself in a position of being observed by third people. I don't think that's cool, man. And that's where that's the only thing I would say. If I was king for a day, Matt Gaetz would be the Attorney General of the United States.
There you go.
I'm on your side on that, but politics is a dirty game. And you got to be prepared. So I don't know.
Hey, I hear you. But let me just say this. Let me just say this, and I know we're hitting here. Look, Mr. Dakota, I didn't catch his name, but real quick, I'm with him, and you got to see it like this, and maybe you can see it from this perspective. Is I'm an independent Constitution. I used to be a Republican, but I like him. They do not fight. They're cowards, and with Democrats, you know what you're getting. We have Democratic brothers and sisters that are either naive or now at this time ignorant to their communist brothers and sisters. They don't admit it, they don't call them out, and they continue to side with them. And that's what we're talking about with the Republicans, is that either you guys are either naive or you're a little ignorant, because these guys have voted in these clowns that have changed the law and changed the rules of the game. You're not wrong, and I'm not right, and vice versa. But I told John this and I preached this, that from Trump, this past election, the next 2 elections, we got to weed out these rhinos. We don't have a lot of time, and this is why the fight, it just started. If we don't continue to weed these people out, we're going to continue spinning our wheels and fighting amongst ourselves. I understand that sometimes you got to vote on moral and principle and such. But my point is, right now, we don't have time for that. We have to suck it up and eat it and say, you know what, normally I wouldn't vote for this, or maybe I'm a little different on this, but we got to weed these things out. And that's where you guys, and I say that respectfully, the Republicans, you guys that are hardcore, don't see that. or you don't want to see it, and you're blind to it. And that's not me dogging y'all or calling you out, but you guys don't understand that Senator Hawley, Senator McKinney, all these guys have great videos and little takes and shorts and all this, but in all reality, they're voting these folks in. And we're on them out. And this is what I mean.
Adrian,
they talk good game, but they don't. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I got to
Man.
make very valid points. But look, are you telling me you're a Democrat because you don't like these people in the Republican Party that you don't feel like really represent what they should?
No, not at all. That's why I said I'm an independent. I know what you're going with that.
Well,
I get what you're saying with that. I'm not. Yeah.
Okay.
I know where you're going with that. Yeah, but
there are times
ahead,
that I have thought about being an independent because of the Mitch McConnells of the world, and I'm worried about John Thune, and I'm worried about this little duo that they've got going up there now, and we're going to see over the next 60 days how it's going to play out, and whether John Thune is going to obstruct President Trump's agenda or whether he's going to be on board with it. We'll just have to wait and see. So I'm right there with you when you're talking about rhinos, but what I want to get you and the other caller to stop and consider for a moment, this is a new day. You've got Democrats and you've got Republicans, and I really think that you could make a strong argument that MAGA today is a new third party in America. You look at African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, gays, lesbians, all moving and voting for Trump in the MAGA party. And you look at Pete Hegseth, and you look at Gates, and you look at Kash Patel, and you look at Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi. These are MAGA Republicans. Chop Republican off the end and just say it's the MAGA party. I would join that party today. You're doing exactly what I've encouraged our listeners to do. Call talk radio. Write letters to the editor. Write your representatives. Trump can't do it alone. This army of warriors that he's assembled cannot do it alone. They didn't get elected without the 76 million Americans voting for them and going out at door to door and working as poll workers and putting yard signs in their front yard. We've all got to come to the party. And we can't let complacency seep back into our psyche, which is what got us into the position that we were in prior to November the 5th, 2024.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, and that's why I'm telling you that we have to find out who's on our team, or at least who's on our side, and continue to move forward with that. Because you stated a lot of valid points to do a lot out there, but the voters, we the people, don't keep our eye on these folks and start holding them accountable, we're going to end up losing this game. Because let me just say that no matter what people say right now, J.D. Vance is not our president. He had the chance to take the lead role and take the lead on this. But I tell you right now, it's not up to him; it's up to us, and that's where they got to get it through. People are going to start attacking J.D. Vance because they're going to assume he's going to be the president, but that's not true. We'll see what happens.
You speak the words of wisdom, and I really appreciate your calling this morning, Mr. Adrian, and I hope that you will feel free to call in the future as well. We got Joe on the line. He's calling from Chesapeake, Virginia. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
How are you?
Do you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, 5 by 5.
Okay, great.
Welcome.
You wonder why the states send money to the federal government and the government turns around and sends it to the states. I can answer that one. It's very similar to the one where we have foreign aid going to foreign countries. It's for control. And if you don't think so, check back in the news media where Trump has threatened to use that to control foreign countries, and I think he has done it, if I remember right. So that's the answer to that one. And another thing, the ignorance of the American public voters is appalling, and our way to correct that is to get the right information. Now, there's a very serious matter of organization behind the scenes which controls everything, and every time these news media people say something's wrong with Biden and the people, therefore, behind the scenes are controlling him, which I totally agree with, but they will never tell you who they are.
Well, who
I
are
can
they?
tell you
Who are they, Joe?
The Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations. Do some research. And the best way to find out something about that is the New American Magazine. The New American Magazine. For your URL on the internet, thenewamerican.com. And they will tell you things that even Rush Limbaugh refused to tell. Limbaugh never told about this Council on Foreign Relations. And they control everything. 99.9% of everything that happens is either initiated or approved by them. Their members, approximately 5,000, are the super rich. My personal opinion is the minimum richness would be approximately $10 million.
Well, the Bible says it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And I've just written an article that we'll be putting up on our website about how misguided America has become because of the dollar, the worship of the dollar by big tech, big pharma, big government, the military-industrial complex. We've got to rein it in. I'm there with you, Joe. Thank you for calling this morning. You're listening to the John Fredericks Show. I'm John Gordon, substituting for John Fredericks. We'll be back in just a few minutes, right after this short break. Don't go away. I want you to know how grateful I am to each one of our listeners and viewers of our live stream. We really don't take this airtime for granted. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to come to you each week with our insights into the news of the day. As I'm fond of saying, we watch the news so you don't have to. We also would like to encourage our radio listeners to go to rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com, search for John Gordon Truth, and subscribe to our channel. That little act of kindness on your part would go so far because it would help us expand our reach. And for a limited time only, if you will subscribe to our channel and then email me at johngordontruth@gmail.com, we will put you in a raffle for this once-in-a-lifetime Trump hat signed by none other than Rudy Giuliani. Wow. And that's the truth. And thank you for your consideration. And we are back on the John Fredericks Show. I'm John Gordon, substituting for the Godzilla of free speech or the Godzilla of truth and the blowtorch of free speech. I'm so happy to be able to occupy this chair this morning, and we've had so many interesting callers. We've got 5,000 people listening to us and interacting with us. Well, actually 4,500 on Getter right now. We also come to you on The Truth on the John Fredericks Media Network each and every Saturday at noon, from noon to 2, and then we replay that broadcast on the John Fredericks Radio Network on Sundays at 1. You can also find past episodes on rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com. And please, if you like us, would you please go there and just subscribe? We're up over 500 subscribers. We've got to get to 1,000. We've had a great 2 hours here this morning. I want to wrap it up with a couple of observations and mentions. One thing, the New York Post just published a story that says that the United Healthcare executive who was gunned down on the streets of New York just yesterday has not lived in the same household with his wife for a number of years. That is a new revelation. That the CEO was also under investigation for insider trading, and that whoever shot him had either a personal vendetta. My observations, my conclusion right now, based on what we know, is that it was a targeted, most likely paid for hit. And a lot of the people on Getter this morning said the guy wasn't worried about anybody seeing him. He wasn't worried about making a getaway. He just casually walked up, shot the guy in the back, and disappeared into the streets of New York. Why has he not yet been apprehended? Central Park is just a matter of blocks from that location, so it would have been pretty easy for him to have disappeared in Central Park and then disappeared into the streets of New York, maybe have gotten into a waiting car or gotten on a subway or a bus. Who knows? One person said, I bet you he's on some island right now drinking a cocktail with a little umbrella on it. I don't know. I don't know. It's very disturbing, though. It shouldn't happen in our country. But when you have Letitia James focusing on lawfare instead of protecting the people of New York, I think this is exactly what you get. The jury is meeting right now, today, to determine the fate of that citizen who I consider to be a hero, who put the homeless person who had been locked up multiple times for harassing people on the streets of New York and in the subways. He was threatening people on that subway car. This Army veteran grabbed him, put him in a headlock to subdue him until the police could come. The guy who was full of narcotics and drugs that we've subsequently learned tragically died. I don't think that should have been the penalty for harassing train riders, and I don't think that was the penalty that the Good Samaritan intended. But he subdued him. The guy was on drugs, and he died. And it's tragic all the way around. But the jury, I hope, will set this guy free today. The Supreme Court has under review. They held oral arguments yesterday about the permissibility of children obtaining gender changes without the involvement of the parent. I think it's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of in my life. You can't get married. You can't serve in the armed forces. You can't buy a beer, but you can make a life-altering change without your parents' involvement or knowledge, and it's irreversible. And there are people in this country that sanction that. I just have to, I'm bewildered how somebody's mind thinks. All right, well, just in the few minutes remaining, I want to talk about Elon Musk, Ramaswamy, and DOGE, the Department on Government Efficiency. Hallelujah. Reagan tried it. He appointed a commission called the Grace Commission, headed by J. Peter Grace. It was essentially the same concept as Doge, and it went nowhere. But this is different. This commission is being headed by Elon Musk, who paid $53 billion for Twitter, and then summarily released 2/3 of the workforce because they weren't coming to work, they weren't doing their job, and instead they were censoring people if they didn't like their political ideology. And Musk has said, no, X, formerly Twitter, is going to be the digital town hall place that you can come and discuss topics of the day. Well, just as he got rid of 2/3 of Twitter's worthless workforce, he and Ramaswamy, they're talking about getting rid of $2 trillion of federal government spending, which would be 1/3 of federal government spending. And they're going to require federal workers to return to their offices. Supposedly, the Social Security Administration buildings are ghost towns because 70% of the people don't show up for work, and they're supposedly working from home. And if you believe that, I've got some real estate here west of town here in West Palm Beach I'd like to discuss with you. They're getting a free ride, and the party is about to come to an end. And we have a unique opportunity in this country right now to take this model that is upside down, where we are subjects of a out-of-control federal government that has no hesitancy to come in and raid your home with a warrant that is obtained based on lies and ruin you. like they did to Rudy Giuliani, like they did to Peter Navarro, like they did to Steve Bannon, like they did to the 45th President of the United States and his son and his wife. Federal agents went through Mar-a-Lago and entered the private sanctuary of Melania Trump and went through her dresser. Damn you! To hell with you! And now I do want accountability. I want to know who those agents were, and I want to know who gave the order, and I want them to be held and brought to task over it. That's not America. That cannot happen in America. And that's what DOJ is seeking to correct. And they're going to correct it by using the power of the purse. All we need is a willing Congress. And that's where you come in, folks. And that's what we talked to Adrian about and Joe about and our other callers this morning. These people cannot do it on their own. They can only do it if you will rush to their side and help them. You help them by calling talk radio, by writing letters to the editor, by sitting down right now, this morning, 10 minutes of your time, write your congressmen and your senators and tell them, empower DOJ and help get this federal government straightened out. I'm John Gordon, substituting for John Fredericks. Thank you for joining us. Tune in Saturday at noon for the next edition of The Truth with John Gordon. Thank you so much, John Fredericks, for letting me share this airtime this morning with your listeners. Have a great rest of your day. TGIF tomorrow and a great weekend coming up. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all.